Hello again everyone, welcome to my little recap video on Seraph of the End. We're going to be covering the past 3 chapters today because I have been on a little break from YouTube. I won't go into the details of why, if you're interested that's all on my community tab. All I'll say is thank you very much for your support and I appreciate your understanding. This won't be a reaction, it will just be a bit of a recap and I'll be sharing my thoughts and my feelings on the current story progression, etc. It won't all be positive, I've got some comments and critiques, but I also don't think it's like terrible where the story is currently at. So yeah, without further ado, please pull up a chair, make yourself comfortable, pour yourself a good old cup of tea, and let's get into this analysis. So I actually wrote about 5 pages of notes, having recapped the past 3 chapters. So my last reaction video was on chapter 1 to 8, so now we're going to be kicking off with 1 to 9. I'm just going to summarise like the key points of each chapter and the questions / comments that I have about each of the points. Chapter 1 to 9 opens with the angels dispensing punishment for Shikama Doji trying to, usurp God and create life in the form of Mikaela. So yeah, the angels descend, they dispense punishment. We have arsehole angel appear, that's what I'm going to call him. Who is that? I wonder who that is and if he's going to come back in the future because he didn't get like a name or anything in the chapter. So yeah, I'm curious as to who this is. Angel City then gets destroyed and all the angels therein. I assume this is also what killed the dinosaurs, but we don't actually get that explicitly confirmed. The angels have their souls like chained to hell for eternity. I think this is linking into the whole thing about the fact that the characters keep repeating like the same lines and sentences. You made a comment on it in a previous chapter. So I think that's what it means by hell, like your fate cannot be changed, like no matter how many times they try, like they die and they just end up repeating the same mistakes. Arsehole Angel does say at one point, I permitted one to survive, and then at that point we've got Angel Ashura who runs up to Shikama Doji, and tells him that all the other angels are destroyed, and then Angel Ashura appears to be killed in front of Shikama. So I'm assuming that the Arsehole Angel was talking about Ashura being the one to survive and then killed him just so that Shikama Doji could, witness the killing. I don't think there's anybody else who was permitted to survive. That's my reading of the chapter, but yeah, that confused me slightly when I first read it. Like, I permitted one to survive, only for Ashura to then get smoked. So I'm assuming it was literally just talking about that scene so that Angel Ashura could tell the first, from the horse's mouth, hey, you killed us all, well done. Shikama, I wish I could just stick to one name, sorry guys. But it's Kagami's fault because he shouldn't be giving characters like 10 different fucking names. Anyway, Shikama is turned into a vampire as an ironic form of punishment, which we figured, so the light will burn him forever. He then creates like a shroud of darkness to stop the light hurting him once he's suffered for a few thousand odd years, however long it was. We learn that Mikaela's dead body, like the actual physical body, contains the light that is needed to revive everyone in the form of the 7 keys. At least at this point in the timeline, the body contained the 7 keys, and in order to access those keys he would have to be revived first, and then the keys could be used to resurrect all of the dead angels. Shikama uses the Eyeball U. Eyeball U is like the homunculus, isn't he, that was created by Shikama in the first place, and he creates cursed dolls of mud to collect darkness instead in order to revive him because he can't use light anymore because he's been banned from using light. So we've got to revive Mikaela, access the keys, bring back the angels, in theory. I think like darkness here is implied to be ugliness / like evil human emotions, which Shikama is then harvesting. Let me know what you guys think by that because it's not really explained what he means by darkness and how he hopes to achieve the harvesting process. Like none of that is really explained at this stage. So then we have the cursed dolls of mud popping out of the U eyeball. Shikama says something weird here. He says, apparently I am permitted to create humans. So my question here is like, where the hell are we now on the timeline of evolution? Like, assuming evolution is a thing in this story because it's never been explicitly said that it's not. Have humans already evolved by this point? Like, are they independent of Shikama Doji creating these humans, or is it like Shikama is the progenitor of all of humanity because we're all descended from like this eyeball U thing? Or are there like pure humans and these false humans? Let me know what you guys think. Souls of the dead angels that are chained to the planet are then put into those human bodies that have just been created. We notice that when the angel souls hit the humans, light enters their eyes and they don't get burned by the sunlight. Shikama says when they're being born through the eyeball U that they are to be made greedy in order for Sikumadu to collect as much darkness as possible. And obviously he talks about these humans, breeding and spreading out. That's why I'm thinking, are all humans of today descended from this group, or is it just some of us? Dunno. Anyway, one of the newly resurrected angels, which looks like current day you. Right, at this point I need to start making distinctions because we know that this is a bit messy because of the whole soul switching thing. From now on, I'm going to talk about person you and person Michaela, meaning like the physical bodies of Mika and you as we've known them since the beginning of the story. We've got person you and person Mika, okay? So, one of the newly resurrected angels that looks like current day person you, as opposed to, eyeball you, that's why I'm making a distinction there, sees Michaela's coffin and starts to talk to Michaela's coffin because Michaela's soul also is bound in this, hellish reality. Shikama Madu doesn't notice this. I'm curious to know here because obviously person you, this little person you in this flashback, has a soul of his own, right? He's got to have one of the angels who had been killed put inside him, right? So that is person you's pre-existing soul. Is that the king of salt? That's the only thing I can think of. Is that the king of salt that is inside him? So Mika then puts his soul into person you, which means that person you has both his original cursed angel soul, possibly the king of salt, plus Michaela's soul inside. And that's the end of chapter 129. Then we move on to chapter 130, where current day person you has remembered that he is carrying Mika's soul. We also then see that Sikamadu is now off the truck. Finally, he's off the truck after like 20 fucking chapters, and he's in the Demon Army HQ with Saito, and he's like in a cage or something. So Saito literally starts poking around his head with his fingertip. Nice. And Saito, it turns out, has been observing through the memories, exactly like our boys have, how Sikamadu resurrected the dead angels and gave them human bodies, the whole shit show that went down. So Saito knows all of this and he has a good cry. Saito, what have they done to you? You're not meant to be fucking crying. Sorry, I'm one of these people where I like my villains to just be villains. I don't need you to humanize the scary guy in the suit, like Saito was better being an enigmatic, unrelatable person who hates his daddy. Anyway, Saito has a good cry, bless him. It's confirmed that the newborn humans with the angel souls, so like the mud-cursed dolls, with the angel souls inside them, they don't remember their lives as angels. So that's interesting to know. And it's also confirmed that despite having the angel souls inside them, they still have human lifespans because they're in the human bodies. Sikamadu does notice, at last, person you hanging around by Mika's coffin. This is after Mika's soul has already bounced into person you. Mika inside person you calls to the eyeball you, and then they connect their respective souls. So this, I think, explains why all the subsequent person yous that are born can speak to Michaela, like they have that long distance connection because of this kind of pact that they make here where they connect their souls. I called that. Just saying, I definitely called that. I said that they had connected to each other by choice. I'm pleased that I got that right. Anyway, Mika, again, inside of person you, then deliberately forgets that he is Mika so that he believes he is person you. Eyeball you then becomes Michaela. You see the eyeball going into the corpse because we know that eyeball you has a personality of its own after Mika gave him a name. So eyeball you becomes Michaela by sinking into his corpse. And what he then does is eyeball you takes those 7 keys, takes them out of dead Mika's body and sends them flying out randomly across the world. We're told that that's in order to slow down Sikamadu's plan for resurrection because he needs all 7 in order to bring the angels back. So Sikamadu at this point needs to not only collect like enough darkness in people's hearts, he also needs to find those 7 keys. And I think it shows that Sikamadu catches 1, so the other 6 are, fair game. It seems like Mika is working against his father's plan here to be resurrected, but it's not like explicitly said why, but I think it's because it's either we use the 7 sinful keys to revive all the angels as per Sikamadu's wish, or we use the 7 sinful keys under Gurren's plan to revive the humans. And it seems like maybe Angel Mika knows this and he doesn't want that scenario. He wants to be the one in control of it and to help his dear old daddy and to save him. So Person U then promises that he will collect all of Mika, as in the 7 sinful keys. So bear in mind, this is after Person U has forgotten that he is Mika. He promises that he will collect all of Mika. He believes that the physical body of Mika contains the real Mika at this point. Sikamadu is suspicious of Person U's behaviour because, he's avoiding questioning and he's acting a bit weird. Sticks his finger in Person U's forehead and then sees that he has no memories. And that's obviously because Mika erased all of those memories himself. And in doing so, he kills Person U. So that's nice, isn't it? And we then see that another Person U is born from IU, feeling like there's something that he needs to do. My question stemming from this is, how does ancient Greece and that whole arc fit in? Because we see in ancient Greece that we've got a Person U who is born, and we see them, they keep being born, don't they, during the ancient Greece flashbacks. But that Person U doesn't have any light in his eyes. Compare that to here, where we know that he's carrying both Michaela's soul and his own King of Salt soul. Why is it that then ancient Greece U, which presumably takes place after this, is shown to be like a blank slate? Why is that? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So we don't really know at the moment what happens to the soul between deaths. That's really weird. Anyway, chapter then switches to the present day. I'm going to refer to them as Person U and Person Mika so we don't get fucking confused. We've got Person Mika, who is carrying Eyeball U's soul inside him, and we have Person U, who is carrying Mika's soul. They are together in the present day. So Person Mika repeats that they should just go into hiding together, live together and die together. His old cabin in the woods fantasy where he just wants to live in peace with his husband in the woods. I'm fully on board with his plan. This to me was the best plan from the fucking beginning. Yes, just go away boys, live your happily ever after, it's fine. But no, of course, Person U doesn't want that. So Person Mika is saying, look, let's just go away into hiding together. And that actually does make sense if Eyeball U's original priority was to keep Angel Mika safe from back in the beginning. That's why he existed. It was to keep Angel Mika safe, Angel Mika being inside Person U in the current day. Person Mika is apparently turning into a full demon, it's then revealed, and we're told that he will try to run away from Person U before that happens. I don't know why this was put into the fucking plot. This doesn't seem relevant at all. Why? Why is this here? It just seems so random, and we've seen no build up to sort of indicate that Person Mika is acting out of the ordinary in any way compared to how he's always acted. It's very weird. Maybe it will be relevant in the future, but it just feels very oddly placed here to be suddenly oh yeah, you're turning into a full demon. Well, thank you for the fucking exposition with no characterization to back it up. Anyway, Person U brings up the whole thing about the dead orphans again, challenging that Person Mika shouldn't just be concerned about keeping him safe and going into the cabin in the woods. We've got to think about everything else. We've got to think about the bigger picture. I like the point where Person U points out that the people they are today have been shaped by their experiences specifically in this lifetime. So from when they were born to now, that is who they are, and it's not really impacted by the previous memories. That shouldn't be what they focus on. They should be worried about dying, because if they die now, the versions of themselves that were built during this lifetime, they die. I liked that point. How does he put it? He puts it as we are who we are, and that's it. I quite liked that. I appreciate that. I also really like the line where Person U says to Person Mika, I'm not letting you get away until we die. That's literally till death do us part marriage proposal shit right there. And of course, Person Mika and Person U, they then promise to get the 7 sinful keys and use them for themselves in their own specific plan. And then we have the shocking revelation at the end that Gurren and Ferid transported miniature Mika and U when they were very little to Ferid in Sanguinium, and they were drugged up, and then they were going to go through little Mika and U's memories to find out what the fuck was going on. So I'm very curious to know if Ferid and Gurren actually managed to get anything out of their minds back in the day there, because I'm guessing that they did, or else why the fuck is the scene in the chapter? But what do they know? Do they know whose soul is in what body? That's interesting, isn't it? Another thing that's interesting is, how do the vampires and demons fit into all of what we've just seen here? because simply putting the angel souls into human bodies clearly doesn't turn them into vampires because they're able to stand in the sunlight, right? So what are the vampires and what are the demons? I'm kind of thinking the underlying curse has to like be activated, maybe through Seeker Madu's blood, like the biting process, which then triggers off the vampirism in humans who have an angel soul inside them. But then my question becomes, well, we're told from the ancient Greece chapters that Person Yu's blood is different to Seeker Madu's blood, because if you remember, there was the whole thing with Ashura dying, and then it was like, oh, which blood do I use to resurrect him? Do I use mine or do I use Person Yu's? It's as if it was going to have a different effect depending on which one he went with. So yeah, like what? What? This is still not making sense to me. The puzzle pieces still ain't clicking. So yeah, just I need to know, like, how do the angels, the demons and the vampires link together? Now we come on to chapter 131. I just want to say, first of all, the artwork in this particular chapter was really nice, like a feast for the fucking eyes. And it's been a while because I'm really not a fan of the art shift. I think a lot of people are not a fan of the art shift. I feel like the original art style was more unique, even if it might not have been like as slick and as professional. The lack of hair really bothers me now. The lack of hair and like the wider faces, I think. Yeah, just not a fan. But this particular chapter I think was drawn really, really well, and they did look mature in a good way, and there's been some dodgy panels where they haven't. So yeah, I really like this. Next point on chapter 131, we have Person Mika and Person Yu who are hunting in the forest because Person Mika's demonic energy keeps draining Person Yu. They give us basically like a recap on what everybody's goals are in the story. So we know that Gurren wants to bring back all of humanity who were killed in the catastrophe, and that will come at the expense of Mikaela because we need the 7 sinful keys. So it's either Mikaela gets resurrected and the angels come back, or humanity comes back. And remember as well, like, Mikaela is actually inside Person Yu. The question being then, does Gurren know that Mikaela is inside Person Yu when he had them drugged in Sanguinum and they were going to go through the memories? Maybe he knows that? And also remember he said before about wanting to free Yu from the curse that he carries. That would make sense if he knows that he's carrying Mikaela's soul, right? Yeah, just a thought. But that does mean, you would think, that Gurren knows that he has to kill Person Yu in the end. I don't know what to think really at this stage. We're told that the first Seeker Madu wants to bring the angels back, which again requires all 7 sinful keys, and we're kind of told that Angel Mika wants to save his dad, which presumably means bringing all the angels back, again requiring the 7 sinful keys. But I do think it's not been very well explained why Angel Mika was trying to obstruct Seeker Madu's original plan by like scattering the keys. Like, I don't think that's been very well explained at all. But I'm just assuming that it's because it's either, you know, humanity versus angels, and Angel Mika doesn't want to, like, I don't know, put such a horrible choice onto his dad, and he's trying to find a different solution. But it's just not been very well explained, unless I've missed something. So somebody help me if I've missed something. But then we have Person Mika realizing that he's not the problem anymore that is preventing humanity's resurrection, because obviously Person Mika doesn't have Mika's soul. Person Yu has the Angel Mika's soul, and therefore Person Mika only cares about keeping Person Yu safe. So that means not letting him die under Gurren's plan. And I think the specific word to use is reviving humanity doesn't mean squat to me. So if we just go back to chapter 115, do you remember that emotional fucking heart-wrenching chapter? I said it, our boy was totally lying, where he was like, you know, think of humanity, you, think of the children. He's basically just admitted in this chapter that it was just a manipulation to get you to do like the morally correct thing when he himself doesn't fucking believe in it at all. So yeah, called that as well, happy about that. We've also got them saying that they still aren't quite sure which of them is which, like which one of them is carrying Angel Mikaela. That's interesting. I think it's said a couple of times. So even though we've had those memories revealed to us, it's almost like Kagami is trying to tell us don't be 100% sure. That's a little bit annoying to me. I feel like we as the audience deserve to have some fucking certainty at this point as to who is who, but the characters apparently don't have the certainty, so that's annoying. I'm very much a fan of the, you know, third person omniscient point of view. Like, whenever I write stuff, it's always third person omniscient. Like, I want you as the reader to know the state of play. I don't like unreliable narration generally. I certainly don't like to personally write in it. I can enjoy stories with it sometimes depending on how it's written, but generally I much prefer third person omniscient view. Anyway, Person Mika Mika poses that Angel Mika might not even be a separate being to Person Yu's current personality. Thank God he said that, because I've been worried about that the whole time, and I think it's a really good point. Using the 7 sinful keys to unleash Angel Mika from Person Yu might fucking obliterate Person Yu's existing mind and soul. So that's worrying, because it could kill his current self, and that's not what they want. Person Mika asks who the sacrifice is going to be this time for the cost of resurrection, and we see previous flashback images of Gurren holding Shinya, we see Shikamaru holding Mika, and we know from chapter 113 that Shikamaru plans for the sacrifice to be Person Yu, not realising obviously that actually Person Yu has Mika's soul inside him. So I think the implication there is that the third picture we should be expecting is to see Person Mika holding a dead Person Yu by the end of it. So that's kind of the image that we're being primed for, which actually would be quite poetic, because if you think of the beginning of the story, it was Yu holding dying Mika in his arms in Sanguinum. So imagine that flip at the end where it's Mika holding dead Yu. Oh god. I need an alcoholic beverage, guys. Anyway, carrying on. So Person Michaela says to Person Yu that he mustn't sacrifice himself, because he knows that Yu is going to be tempted to do that in order to bring back all the angels and humans. Notably, however, Person Yu doesn't promise that he won't do it. Person Michaela pushes him a couple of times and says, don't do this. Promise me you won't do this. And Yu dodges the question both times. What he does instead is he flips it and he says, what if it was the other way round, Mika? Would you promise not to sacrifice yourself? And actually it's quite notable that Person Mika does promise, but I would put a very strong caveat with that promise, because he thinks he's no longer the source of the problem by this point. So really, what does that promise really count for in terms of character development, where he says, I won't sacrifice myself, Yu, I promise you that I won't do that. Yeah, but you're not at stake anymore. And I'll come on to that in a minute, because I'm going to go through some actual analysis and moaning. So I just wanted to make that point. They both agree that they are determined to win without any sacrifices, and the chapter ends with Person Yu walking in to meet with Saito. On to the proper analysis then. What did I like about this? Okay, so I like the fact that Yu and Mika's connection was formed by choice back in the beginning. Loved that for them. Beautiful. I like the fact that Yu's soul has been previously referred to as a warped false soul. I was originally misled to think that it's because he was the homunculus eye. I think that we all were, and therefore he doesn't have a proper soul. But actually, if he's carrying Angel Mika's soul, that also makes sense, doesn't it? Because Angel Mika's soul was not meant to be, it wasn't meant to exist. Shikamaru committed the unforgivable sin of creating him, and then he ended up inside of Person Yu's body. We also have an explanation now of why Person Yu can't remember his past, which Ashura was really freaked out by in previous chapters. He obviously wiped his own mind to forget that he's carrying Angel Michaela's soul. This also ties in neatly with the whole scapegoat theme song for Person Michaela, because he's literally a decoy for the Angel Michaela. So that's interesting. I also like that there's an increase to the stakes if Shikamaru thinks that Person Yu is going to be the sacrifice to pay for Michaela's resurrection, when actually Person Yu has his son's soul inside him. I like that. I think that's an interesting twist. Oh dear, and now we come on to the dislikes. There's quite a lot, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. So, the biggest issue I have right now is Mika's motivations and lack of independent self. The fact that Person Mika is actually Eyeball Yu, and he's not the Angel Michaela, we think at this point. Bear in mind that there's a bit of confusion over that still. But that's what we are being led to believe at the moment. That really takes away from Mika having to find his own self-worth. When we thought he was the Angel Mika, that was really interesting, because it put his own survival at odds with humanity, and really importantly, it gave Yu the chance to affirm Mika's worth to him. And Mika was in the position where he had to fight for his own survival in order for Yu to be happy, and even if that came at the cost of so many people's lives, that was the position he was in. It challenged his outlook. That has just been taken away and undermined, because now we know that Mika's entire existence, because he's got Eyeball Yu inside him, his entire existence and purpose is just to protect Yu. That's a real shame to me. I think that's wasted potential for growth. kind of links to the next point as well, which I'm not particularly fond of. I can't tell which of them is which anymore, Mika and Yu. From a characterization standpoint, I don't know which of them is which. There's no clear lines anymore between, like, you know, the whole self-sacrificing versus greedy nature, even which of them is smart and which of them is stupid. All of it's kind of blurring together. Now, that might well be a narrative choice from Kagami to emphasize the point that they don't know who they are anymore, and their souls have always been mixed up from the beginning, so of course their personalities will be mixed as well. That doesn't mean I have to like it, even if it does make sense. I don't like it. I would prefer it that there were more unique traits between them so I could tell them apart. It's more interesting when you have two characters that are different and not the same. And also, I feel like the narrative is kind of trying to have its cake and eat it. Because on the one hand, we have person Yu saying, what matters now is who we are today. But then you've taken away all of the characterization differences between these characters. Well, how am I meant to be invested in who they are today if there's no differences between them? And the reason there's no difference between them is because their souls are all mixed up. Yeah, I'm just really not liking the current characterization trend, and I'm actually quite concerned that we're going to get some sort of spiritual merger between them as a result. If you remember chapter 109, where Sikamadu has the whole confrontation with them, he talks about them specifically merging together. I am quite concerned at this point, based on the narrative, that that is what we're going to get, and we're going to get two people that are literally indistinguishable from each other becoming one. Not what I want. I want them to have independent lives, personalities, exist as humans, be happy, be different to each other, embrace independent living. But I don't think we're getting that, and I don't like it. The ancient Greece arc, I just can't see that fitting in properly anymore at all, for the reasons that I've already said about the whole eyes and the lack of a soul being implied there. But then we find out, no, he's always had a soul, and he's been carrying Angel Mika's soul, no less, the whole time. And then it's like, well, yeah, but then why the fuck did he have no light in his eyes back in ancient Greece? I don't know. It doesn't fit to me anymore. Another thing, you know how Sikamadu was doing all those experiments on person Yu back in ancient Greece? We saw the angel wings come out of him, so it's kind of obvious that he must have had a Seraph soul inside him at that point. Does Sikamadu think that that's like his original King of Salt soul, and he still doesn't recognize that Mikaela is inside him? I'm guessing that that's what it is, but it's just a bit weird that like Sikamadu could have like been all up in person Yu's soul and body at that time and not noticed that he was carrying the soul of his dead son when he's been doing all of these experiments in ancient Greece. Just a bit weird. I can let that go from a magic standpoint, you know. Also, possibly another contradiction where I think like the current events maybe contradict previous events. You know that chapter, I think it might be 107, when Demon Mika and Yu are facing off, like it's when Demon Mika has forgotten who he is. Demon Mika manages to chop Yu's head off and like goes into his soul. We see an eye staring back at Mika when he goes in. That implies that the homunculus eye is Yu's soul, right? That's what that implies to me. We don't see a Seraph Mika soul anywhere in that chapter, do we? So I don't know what to think about that. The only thing I could think that would explain that is if we were misled, we were being shown like the wrong perspective. I can't really explain very well, so I'm not going to try, but I just don't like how that chapter was presented. Tell me what you guys think. The food thing that we've been suffering through for the past, 10 chapters now? Ever since they started the whole memory diving, Demon Mika being attached to Yu, consuming all his energy, he needs to go and eat a load of food. We've now had, as of this chapter, a scene change from that scenario to Yu meeting with Saito, okay? We're out of the memory diving, we're now changing scene and moving on. Are you trying to tell me that the whole food thing that had been going on for panels and panels and panels had no impact? I'm still hoping that something comes of it in the future, but as of now, it really does seem like that was just filler for humorous purposes. I don't know. I didn't find it funny. I found it a waste of time. It really pissed me off, and to be honest, I just don't think it's good writing. Sorry, guys. Another thing I'm frustrated with is the complexity of the story at this point, and just the sort of vagueness of it all. Vagueness and complexity. So we don't really know what a soul actually is. We don't know how angel magic, or magic at all really, works in this universe. We don't know about the whole blood compatibility thing. We don't know still about the link between demons, angels and vampires. It just still feels so like woolly and complicated to me. Don't know, just a bit frustrated. And the last thing that I'm not liking lately is the lack of physicality, the lack of just, friendly touch between Mika and you. It really feels like we've gone from the kind of gentle sweetness that we had before. We've gone from that to just verbal affirmation. And a bit of verbal affirmation is nice, don't get me wrong, but I don't want one in exchange for the other. We've literally gone from holding hands and neck biting. I won't say any more than that. We've gone from that to fucking fist bumps and cheering and high fives and, some nice words, some marriage proposal words. But I don't know, there's something weird. There's something weird about the characterization compared from before to now. Don't like the direction it's taken at all. So yeah, my summary then and overall feelings. Basically, I think the word would be frustration. Not like hatred, not burning hatred for it at all. It's just still frustrated, still feel mostly in the dark, like there's still a lot that needs to be unpicked and unraveled here, and I'm not sure that it can be done. I have a very vague sense that there might have been some retconning that was mentioned by other people in the fandom as well, but nothing was ever kind of solid enough where you can point to it and say that's a retcon, because nothing was ever explained. So it's not like there was a definitive principle or law laid down, which has then been contradicted. It just feels like there's been changes of story direction that have taken place, and I think the ancient Greece thing is probably a good example of it, because nothing explicitly contradicts yet, but it feels like it was probably written before Kagami had this thing about putting their souls into each other's bodies. Maybe that's how it feels. I could be wrong, and I don't know, maybe I'm just not as invested in the whole Mika-Yu relationship as I maybe was once upon a time. I'm not sure if that's just because of these characterization issues that I've described here, or if it's just me naturally moving on from the franchise after being on board for a long time now. If you look at my videos, we've been doing this for I think nearly 2 years, maybe more than 2 years. So I've been here for a while at this point, and obviously I've been consuming the media for a while before that point too. So I've been here for a while, and tastes change, people move on. I haven't completely lost my love for it, but I think the combination of maybe just being here for a long time, being slowly worn down and waiting for answers, and the characterization being taken in this direction, maybe everything together has kind of made me lose my love for it a little bit. Also, it doesn't help that I've literally found my Roman Empire the last year, which is a completely different show. Hanagram, my babies. So once you've had your eyes open to something that you really, really like, and then you compare back to your old fandoms, it's like, oh, I want to be over here now, but I have to still keep up with this. And I will still keep up with Seraph. I still do enjoy it. I'm just not quite as invested as I used to be perfectly honest with you guys. So yeah, that is my thoughts for the last 3 chapters then. My hopes going forward is please let them actually reveal what Gurren and Ferid were up to when they looked into the kids' memories. I want a more solid game plan from Mika and you. What are they actually going to do? Because Mika was kind of implying he has a plan. Not sure if I believe him or not. Let's see. And yeah, just please don't let you, person you, die. Just don't do that. From a narrative standpoint, just don't do it. No more sacrifice. No more sacrifice. Choose life, guys. Choose life. And that will be the last thing I say today. Choose life. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, please give me a like, comment and subscribe. You can also connect with me on social media. I'll pop the links down in the description below. And with that, you guys take care of yourselves. Have a lovely day. See you in the next one. Bye bye.